we are going to see the law of variable proportion, or what we call the law of diminishing returns. First of all, let us see factors of production. We need factors of production, land, labor, capital, and also enterprise to carry out any activity. We need land, labor, capital, and enterprise for production to take place. But if we want to increase production in the short run, in the short time period, we cannot increase land. That is, we cannot purchase a plot of land immediately in order to increase production. This will take time. We cannot buy machines immediately because we need investment, we need money. We cannot employ manager, entrepreneur to look after the activities of the business in the short run, in the short time period. So there is only one factor which can be increased in the short run. It is labor. Labor is a variable factor. So when we are talking about the law of variable proportion, variable means variable factor labor, proportion means in proportion to output. So there is a technical relationship between variable factor labor and production. What we mean when we say a technical relationship between factor of production labor and production. For example, if we employ one labor, we can produce 10 units. If we employ a second labor, so we are expecting to produce 20 units. But by employing the second labor, we can produce 25 units. We are expecting to produce 20 units, but we are producing 25 units. So that's why we say there is a technical relationship between variable factor labor and production. Now, we have seen that in the short run, only one factor which can be increased, that is labor, in order to increase production. So the law of variable proportion states that as a variable factor labor is employed, more and more can be produced at the beginning, and production will increase at an increasing rate at the beginning, and production will decrease later. That is, production will increase but at a diminishing rate, and then total product will fall and the business will experience negative return. So there are three stages in the law of variable proportion. The first stage, increasing return to scale. The second stage, diminishing return to scale. And the third stage, negative return to scale. So in order to understand this concept properly, we will take an example. A small firm buys 3 machines, one machine for cutting, one for stitching, and one for pressing. There are 3 machines in a small firm, and the firm decides to employ one labor to produce goods. So one labor has to work first in the morning. When he comes to work, he has to work in the cutting machine, and then in the stitching machine, and finally in the pressing machine. So one worker will work during the whole day. He can produce only 20 units. by employing one labor, he can produce only 20 units. So this is the capacity of producing one labor. So the business is motivated to employ more workers. A second labor is employed. So when a second labor is employed, it means that one worker can be specialized in the cutting machine, can work only in the cutting machine, and the other worker will work in the stitching machine and in the pressing machine. So two machines will be fully utilized at a time and one machine will remain idle. So there is a specialization in one machine, in the cutting machine. And finally, the second labor, we see that output is, with one labor output 20 units, and by employing the second labor, output comes to 50 units. So we are expecting to produce 40 units, but we produce 50 units. Why? Because the one labor has been specialized and only one machine remains idle. So production increases at an increasing rate. That is, the total production increases at an increasing rate. Again, the owner is motivated to employ a side labor. When the side labor is employed, production comes to 150. Why? Because now each worker will be working on one machine, one in the cutting machine, the other one in the stitching machine, and the last one in the pressing machine. There is no machine idle. The fixed factors are fully utilized. Production increases at an increasing rate. Total product increases, average product increases, as well as marginal product, because the firm is experiencing increasing return to scale. Again, the firm is motivated to employ a forced labor. By employing the forced labor, production comes to 165. It was 150, now 165. Still, production is increasing, but at a diminishing rate, because the forced labor, there is no machine to work for the forced labor, because the 3 workers are already working in cutting, stitching, and pressing machine. So one worker remains idle. So what the owner does, the 4th worker will be working during the break time when one worker goes into break. So the 4th labor will replace in the cutting machine, at times in the stitching machines, and at times in the pressing machine. So what happened? The fixed factors are being overutilized. That's why production increases, but at a diminishing rate. Total product increases to 165, but at a diminishing rate, because the fixed factors are being overutilized. So which increases cost of production. Still, the owner is motivated to employ a 5th labor. When a 5th labor is employed, production comes to 170. So it increases, but at a diminishing rate. Total product increases at a diminishing rate. Average product also increases, but at a diminishing rate. But marginal products will fall, will decrease. So by employing additional workers, there will be a point where marginal product and average product will cut each other. The marginal product will cut the average product from above. The average product, where the average product and marginal product intersect, we say that we are in the first stage, that is the increasing stage. And when the total product reaches at its maximum point, marginal product becomes zero and can even becomes negative. And average product will keep on falling. So this is the second stage, diminishing return to scale. And finally, total product will start declining, will start falling, so the business average product will fall as well as marginal product will become negative. So this is the third stage, what we call the negative return. So at the beginning, total product will increase at an increasing rate because there is a specialization of labor and machines are fully utilized. And at the diminishing return, total product will still increase but at a diminishing rate. Average product will increase but marginal product will fall. And there will be a point where average product and marginal product will intersect. The point where they intersect, what we call the first stage, increasing return to scale. And then we have diminishing return to scale, and then finally negative return to scale. So this is a way to explain to you the law of diminishing return to scale. So by employing more workers, we are expecting to produce more, which is not the case, because by employing more workers, the fixed cost will be overutilized. So in this case, the output of the workers will decrease. And in the short run, we cannot increase fixed factors like land, capital, enterprise, and so on. We can increase only labor to increase production, but this also will have a limit where we can increase labor to a certain point. Over that point, total product will decrease, average product will decline, even marginal product will become zero. So when the total product reaches at its maximum point, marginal product will become zero. Later on, we will see it in a diagram where total product will become zero, and when the total product reaches at its maximum point. So we try to see it in a diagram how it will look like. So here we are. Here we are. So this is the total product. This is a marginal product, and this is the average product. So this is one stage where it gets this is the increasing return to scale, and then at this point marginal product is equal to zero, where this is the maximum point of total product. When it reaches its maximum point, marginal product will become zero, and then we will have the third stage. This is the first stage, increasing returns, and then we'll have diminishing return, and this one negative returns. So here we are. So for concerning the diagram for law of variable proportion. Law of variable proportion. The first stage where the average and marginal product intersect. This is the first stage, increasing return. And then we have diminishing return, marginal product becomes zero. And then we have the negative return, where total product, average product, and marginal product are falling. So here we are concerning the law of variable proportion. Now we are going to make a recapitulation what we studied so far concerning the law of variable proportion. The law of variable proportion is also known as the law of diminishing returns. So we have seen that in the short run, if we want to increase production, we cannot increase all factors of production. We cannot increase land immediately. Therefore, we have to purchase plot of land immediately, which cannot be done in the short run. We cannot purchase machines immediately because we need money, we need investment. So capital cannot be increased immediately in the short run. We cannot employ manager to look after the activities of the business in the short run. So still the business cannot increase until entrepreneur. So the only factor which can be increased is called labor. So here we are concerning the law of variable proportion. Thank you very much.